and welcome to the Non-Perfect Christian Talk Show. So, of course, you've got Sludge here, which you all are familiar with. You are also familiar with Mighty Micah sitting across from me.
How's it going, guys?
So that's what I'm calling you from now on, Mighty Micah. I like that. And then we were actually joined on this new show by a third host, none other than Smoke and Sarah, which only I'm allowed to say because she's my wife. But Sarah.
Hello.
So we've got a cool new show for you guys, and we've been promoting it on the other Sludgecast episodes. This one's going to be quite a bit different than what we've been doing. You know, we've been doing just podcast shows of pop culture and movie reviews. And while you will get some pop culture movie reviews in this show, it will not be so much focused on that. The Non-Perfect Christian Talk Show episodes will, of course, deal with real world news and what we are facing on the daily. That will be in every episode. Of course, we'll throw 3 songs at you every episode so that we get some good music in. We'll have an entertainment section for you. We'll review newly released or upcoming movies and shows to let you know, hey, is this appropriate for
my family to view?
Yeah, for us to watch this as a Christian, because this is a Christian-centered show, if it's not apparent in the name. And then, of course, the third part of the show is going to be a devotional time, something we could call in the deep dive. And we may be just doing a devotional on a certain subject, or we may deep dive into a big topic that may be pushy, controversial, or interesting. We may discuss, hey, why did God separate their tongues at the Tower of Babel? Or, hey, is murder really wrong? How can I be a soldier and do that? At the same time, tons of different things.
Yeah.
So we're pretty stoked about that. And then, of course, we'll have guests on as we continue the show. I actually lined up a guest right now, a guy who wants to come on and do his testimony. Is pretty excited about it. A friend of ours from our church called Reese Everett. Pretty stoked, actually.
Yeah.
I'm going to tell him the cost of coming on the show, though, is going to be an In-N-Out Burger. So he's going to fly to Texas first.
I'll take it.
He might, though. I mean, because he works in Texas. So pretty stoked about the show. Hopefully you guys will enjoy it. Of course, we bring this to you right now monthly, but may quickly move to bi-monthly. We'll see how it goes. We hope you guys definitely enjoy it. And we'll just jump right into things, man. Now that you guys kind of know what's going on and what to expect, we definitely want to state, the biggest thing about the show is what it's called, Non-Perfect Christian Talk Show. And that's because none of us are perfect.
No, absolutely not.
We are all filthy rags.
Yeah.
And we fall daily. We just strive to be more Christ-like. And we want to keep a show that's real, that's honest, and where can we come from as far as a Christian? Because especially here in America today, we know, and we're just going to be real and just come out with it. Or I am. There's a new movement of Christianity, progressive Christianity, as it's called, that's really kind of moved a lot away from Scripture and what its honesty, and that doesn't need to happen. So we're going to be pretty, on boldly on the Scripture. But we're also going to let you know we love you and we love everybody, and we are not perfect. We mess up every single day. So how, as a Christian who messes up every day, do we get through day to day? And that's what it's about, man. It's about transformation by renewal. That's from Romans, and that's renewing your mind constantly. We got to be spending time constantly in the Word and in prayer, and then knowing how do we face the daily challenges that we got to face. And that's what we're going to be doing with every show. Hopefully we'll keep it interesting. What do you think, Sarah?
Yeah, it sounds like it'll be fun to talk about.
Well, I hope it is. Hopefully.
We'll at least have fun.
Yeah, definitely. So let's, real quick, let's jump into the news. Now, this is the beginning of 2021, and I know a lot of us was hoping, the craziness of 2020 would have just been over with, but we see how well that's gone so far in the first half a month in January. So a lot's happened, obviously. We know we just went through the election, and it's looking like Biden is, he is the president-elect, and he will be becoming president, the 20th?
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
20th. This is the inauguration. So there's been a lot going on. Capitol Hill is definitely keeping us busy with everything. And the first thing, of course, that we talked about is the House Democrats and 10 Republicans just filed a single article of impeachment against Trump. So that's the second time that he's been attempted to be impeached. Now, of course, we don't, I guess, by the House rules, he's been impeached because they accepted it. It's just whether or not, the Senate will pass it is going to be the big thing there. So that, of course, is on the news everywhere. And he may be the first, I don't know of any of the presidents that's been impeached twice.
I think he's the only one.
Hey, if the man does anything, he does it the first time and he does it right. He goes all the way for the fence, man. He's like, I'm gonna hit a home run. It's going out the park. He's definitely done it with this one. With two of them. It's interesting, I think, with this impeachment because unfortunately and sadly, we all know what happened on Capitol Hill with the riots. And unfortunately, 5 people have lost their life because of it. And there's a lot going back and forth. We won't get into conspiracy theories or things like that on this show, but there's a lot of finger pointing and what's happened, what hasn't happened. But that's the course of what's caused the impeachment that they've come to. And I printed off a copy. It's the HRES 24. They filed it January 13th, and it's an incitement of insurrection. And it's I find it interesting. Because they do state things in regards to Trump in here. These are the quotes that they're pretty much impeaching him on. Okay, that the things that he stated. He goes on in the second paragraph. There he reiterated at a speech because he was speaking to all the protesters and the Trump supporters there. That he reiterated the false claims that we won this election and we won it by a landslide. Of course, how much true that is to a false claim, but he also willfully made statements that in context encouraged, I like how they said in context here,
right?
Encouraged and foreseeably resulted in lawless action at the Capitol, such as if you don't fight like hell, you're not going to have a country anymore. Thus incited by President Trump, members of the crowd he addressed in an attempt to, among other objectives, interfere with the joint session's solemn constitutional duty to certify the results of the 2020 presidential election, unlawfully breached and vandalized the Capitol, blah, blah, blah. We know what happened. So they're pretty much blaming Trump for stating, if you don't fight like hell, you're not going to have a country anymore.
Right.
I mean, really? Okay. There's been times I've stated for Trump. Like, I voted for him in, the first time around 2016.
Right.
I voted for him again.
Yeah.
And it's been a rough couple weeks for me, honestly.
Right.
Because I have been brutally attacked by a lot of friends on social media, especially from the left, which drives me nuts because they're Democratic friends, they're liberal friends, not all of my Democratic liberal friends, but some of them.
Right.
And I defend them, through and through because they're my friends. But it's been crazy to see the coin flip, against me here because, since I voted for Trump, it's instant, I'm in a Trump cult and I'm a white supremacist and it's ridiculous. Because I'm not any of those things. I voted for policy.
Yeah.
Because I agree with his policies a lot more than I do Biden's or did Sanders or anybody else's. But I have multiple times spoke against Trump, mainly because of his Twitter account and the things he says.
Yes.
If anything, the dude, while I love how bold he is, there's been plenty of times where it's like, man, you could have stated that better. Or maybe you shouldn't have said that. Okay. You are the president. Let's act and talk like a president at times when need be. So, there's times where he definitely has, I don't think he's incited the violence.
No.
But he hasn't helped tone the fuel down with some of his rhetoric. Now, as far as incitement of insurrection based off of stating if you don't fight like hell, you're not going to have a country anymore. For how long did he state if you want to fight, you got to vote?
Yeah. And it's the same thing carrying over.
And when you read the actual speech, because I have not honestly watched Trump talk since October, and the only time I've actually read anything was in reference to the Georgia call.
Right.
And I read the transcript of that call, which again, I don't, in context, he didn't tell him, find me these votes now. But I did read the transcript of his speech the other day, and I probably should have just listened because, man, that was a long speech. We know how long-winded he can be. In context, he'd never incited violence.
No.
He talked about voicing. He even stated two times in the speech for peacefully protesting.
Yes.
So, in my opinion, when it comes to this impeachment, it's a load of crap. And,
absolutely.
You can hear me.
All right, Pelosi.
What?
Is it all right, Pelosi?
Oh, no, I pulled a Pelosi. How could I?
I don't think that it's a call to action, but there have been people on the Democratic side that have put out calls to action for violence, and nothing's happened to them.
Yes, I 100% agree.
Yeah, it's aggravating. Something I've been talking about with a lot of friends here lately is it's accountability. both sides need to stop pointing the finger.
America is quickly becoming a cancel culture society, and I think we're already there.
Yeah, we're there. There's no question about it.
You know, when you can watch 3 films of Star Wars and get upset that it's not the way it went, and you want them out of the canon of the universe, then
yeah, that's pretty bad.
That's somebody's creative work, and if we're bickering over that, we have much larger problems as a nation.
Oh,
that's just something simple to kind of keep everybody in the loop of something simple of cancel culture right there. Let alone this impeachment. Well,
I mean, it boils down to cancel culture. What we're seeing is if you don't agree with me, then I'm canceling you.
Exactly.
And that's not how it's supposed to be. That's not what our country's based off of or how it was built. We have freedom, you know, and part of our freedoms is being able to have a different opinion. You know, there's tons of memes you see all the time where it's like, you know, that I see of people, you know, it boils down to we can have a different opinion. Doesn't mean I'm going to hate you.
Right.
And that's the way it needs to be. You know what I mean? Do I have friends where I'm very much or pro-life?
Right.
You know, not totally against abortion.
Right.
Do I have friends who support abortion? Yes. Do I treat them differently? No. That's their opinion. That's their choice. You know, as a Christian, above anything, the number one commandment that Jesus gives us is to love your neighbor as yourself. Yeah. I mean, we got to love more than anything else. So and we're not judges either. That's God's job. Okay. So whatever my belief is, I'm gonna love you. You can have a difference of opinion. Yeah. That's what God tells us to do. And we're freaking America.
Yeah.
You know, if you want to go and decide to color yourself pink and name yourself a flamingo, you apparently have that right in this country at this point, you know. But that's the freedom that we have here. And cancel culture is destroying that.
Absolutely.
Definitely.
I think a lot of it has to do with the colleges. The professors are they're indoctrinating these young people to think like them instead of teaching them how to think for themselves.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then it trickles down into the media and everything, and then everybody's just watching it.
We don't have any Walter Cronkites anymore. You know, I remember, and of course, now as a kid, I remember Walter because he retired a few years after me, being born. But I remember him on the evening news, and he came and he brought the news black and white,
such as it is. Yeah.
Yeah. No opinion. No, this is what you need to think about it. Oh, here's what happened. Now you decide. You know, you've got, unfortunately, yes, and especially in the education system, teaching children and college age students, this is how you're supposed to act or how you're supposed to think or what you're supposed to feel. And unfortunately, that's where we are. And because of that, Trump can say, hey, protest peacefully. Hey, go vote. Hey, make sure you fight like hell. He incited violence.
Yeah.
Come on. Really? I'm not going to disagree that he's definitely not. He could have done a better job in some of his speeches as far as toning things down.
Yeah, tact is not his strength.
No, not a strong suit. You know what I mean? He helped flare things.
Oh, yeah.
But so has so many people on the other side. Maxine Waters, Cynthia Johnson, Don Lemon. Oh, my gosh. He just called, all conservatives, KKK members pretty much of the day.
Yeah.
But there's no accountability there for them. And that's the problem we're having right now. I was talking to some liberal friends of mine, and we had agreed that that's the biggest problem is there's no accountability on either side. It's pointing the fingers at the other side immediately. And both sides need to own up to the faults that they've done and then say, okay, let's hold ourselves accountable here. And then maybe we can actually fix this thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
I think more people need to recognize that Fox News is not this great entity because they say things they shouldn't say as well.
Oh my
gosh,
gosh,
put their
yes.
opinions on it as well.
Oh, gosh, the Five. I was talking to my liberal friends about this too. Greg Gutfeld. I can't stand that man, at all. I don't know if it's. I don't like the tone of his voice, but it's like if anybody incites anything on the conservative side, it's definitely Greg Gutfeld, and I can't stand him for that. He says things. I'm like, dude, come on, show some respect or think a little bit before you speak. And he's a Fox News host. You know what I mean? I don't watch him. I do not watch that segment of Fox because I disagree with the way he handles or things or what he says. And that's okay because he's a conservative and that's fine. That doesn't mean I gotta agree with him. So that's a big thing so we'll see where it goes because it'll be interesting because McConnell stated he's not bringing the Senate back for the trial until after the inauguration. And then it's then you can't really impeach him because he's no longer president.
What's the point?
Yeah, what's the point in it?
Yeah.
Oh, well, we'll see. They're doing it for some reason. Another big thing that we saw, big tech completely killed Parler.
Yeah.
Apple and
Twitter, pretty much.
Twitter, Facebook.
Yeah.
Well, no, Twitter and Facebook pulled Trump, and they're paying for it because Facebook just lost $53 billion.
Yeah. Twitter stock is plummeted.
Yep. They lost like $3.1 billion in the first couple of days, which is just, again, it's absurd. And it's part of this cancel culture deal. And it's aggravating. And how do we need to understand and take this? Because, we can give you our opinions is, they blocked Trump for things he said because he's the president. They did not block the Iranian leader when he called against the murdering of American people. On Twitter, not Facebook.
Yeah, right.
Facebook is at least better than Twitter about black people. I will give them that. But now the big thing is big tech, Apple especially, and Google they collectively shut down Parler, which Parler was supposed to be a free speech platform that a lot of conservatives moved to, and I understand the concerns as far as inciting violence because I didn't use Parler. I didn't get onto it.
I didn't have an opportunity, yeah.
But I didn't get the opportunity. But I know talking to people, because I reached out to people about, hey, what was your experience like on Parler? And a lot of people was like, this violent stuff that they're talking about was no different than what we saw on Facebook. They saw just as many people posting about Bible verses or, normal things in their family or their concerns as a conservative. But as far as pushing violence and hate and white supremacy, they're like, we never really saw much of that.
Exactly.
But because it was being used heavily by white supremacist groups, I guess like QAnon and things like that.
Right.
Those freaking nut jobs. It's my show. I can call them nut jobs. So they shut them down. And that's a big problem for me.
Oh, yeah.
And we should be concerned as Christians because, I hear a lot of people say, well, just because it's shutting it down, they're companies and they can, but it's not, breaking any freedoms. It's not silencing people. Yes, it is. Everything happens with a footstep. You know what I mean? A door opening. Things don't change or regimes don't come into power or laws aren't made immediately and instantaneously. It takes steps to get there. And this is just a step in what's happening. Marcus Rogers, who's a pastor that we listen to on YouTube, he's been banned on Facebook for nothing relating to violence or even what's going on in Washington right now. He was banned because of Christian views that he stated. This is not saying, okay, they're going to start banning everybody immediately for their conservative views or their Christian views, but this is definitely the beginning, I think.
Oh, absolutely.
And that's what we need to be concerned about as far as Christians is how do we deal or what do we, it's going to come to a point, I've stated this in many discussions before with other people, is people are like, oh, Christians aren't persecuted in America. It's starting. Yes, they are because of cancel culture. You as a Christian can't state I'm, pro-life,
right?
Because that's, that now violence is language, violence is no longer just physical. Now it's, it's words and emotions.
You hurt my feelings.
You hurt my feelings.
So now I can punch you in the face.
Yeah, it's ridiculous.
Yeah.
So they've, we've built this culture now, this cancel culture to do that, yes, now Christians are being attacked and persecuted for their beliefs.
Right.
But then again, that's been the growth of progressive Christianity is that version of Christianity is going to be acceptable and okay. But if you stay true to the word and you're not a progressive Christian, you are a Christian, okay, you are going to be canceled.
Yeah.
That's what's coming. And you just need to be aware and prepared for that. But hey, that's big tech killing Parler is a huge step. But we're going to see what happens. There's been a lot of other places pop up. Apps like MeWe.
MeWe is pretty cool.
MeWe, Signal's another one. Somebody told me about another one the other day too, and I can't remember. So there's more people coming, and people are moving because honestly, people don't want to be silenced like that, especially in America.
Yeah,
I mean, what if anything? They should have said, "Okay, Parler, you've got to step up your security protocols and get these violent posts removed, like Facebook or Twitter is supposed to do." You know what I mean? Not shut them down entirely because where those, white supremacist groups want to go to, Facebook, Twitter.
I was censored twice just in my Facebook Messenger. I think it was once, was it today or yesterday? And then a few days ago, I was just
once today.
Yeah, I was sending him a couple of links and it said something. I can't remember what it said. Something about violence, and it didn't have anything to do with violence.
I know.
And then I
well, no, it
found
did. I mean, you were trying to show me videos of how they butcher chickens for KFC wings. No,
well,
not really.
and then
Not really.
I found the website for Antifa, even though they say it's just an idea. No, it's a group.
Oh, yeah.
I found their website and shared the link in Facebook Messenger and didn't get flagged for that.
And that's some pretty insightful stuff on that page, let me tell you, because I did get a chance to check that out.
It's convenient.
It's, if you're going to do this, you do it across the board or don't do it at all. You know what I mean? When it comes to the big tech companies, that's the way it needs to be. But unfortunately, it'll be interesting to see what happens. I mean, because, they just took Parler down. Parler's going to try and get alternate servers after Amazon pulled them, but it looks like that's not happening. So
Right.
I know a lot of people are like, oh, they're not, harping on your freedoms. This is the step. They're getting there. Cancel culture had to start first, had to start in the colleges, had to become a thing and you had to start saying violence is not just physical. Violence is you hurt my feelings by something you said. So now that's considered violence and hate speech. Now we've moved on to we can shut down a social media site for that said thing.
Right.
It'll be interesting. So, all right, next piece of news. This one I'm not a fan of, but it happened. And Tennessee Democratic Congressman, unfortunately I live in Tennessee, Steve Cohen introduced HJ Res 14. What is that? What are you talking about, sludge? That's proposing an amendment in the Constitution to abolish the Electoral College. No. Okay, it's there for a reason. And I've heard people say, yeah, but that was 200 years ago. And, people in, Vermont didn't know, who the president, the person running for if they were in California because they didn't have TVs. You could see everybody. I get that. But we have kept vote level as far as the number of electoral votes each state gets has been changed multiple times in the past to make sure it stays fair because New York should not dictate how North Dakota's ran.
Oh, absolutely.
Or Oklahoma. Just like, North Dakota shouldn't dictate how New York's ran. Okay. Or Oklahoma. I mean, those are the Midwest. That's farming and cattle. Okay. Totally different than New York, which is more industrial. They should, it needs to be fair. Everyone needs to have a fair voice. And so removing the Electoral College causes a lot of big problems. The one biggest of that is making sure things are fair across the board. And it prevents some certain things happening like we may have possibly seen this time around. But that's coming. So that was the first, the first meeting of Congress was to say you can't say father, mother, sister, brother anymore. It's illegal.
You just reminded me of something.
What?
When that man came up and prayed over, was it the house? And at the end he said, amen, and a woman.
Yeah. Okay. So let's address that real quick since that happened. Christians, don't get butthurt. Okay. I'm going ahead and tell you this is sludge and we're going to keep it raw and real. Don't get butthurt over that. Was he wrong? Yes. And he made himself like a fool? Yes. Why? Because amen is not a gender related term. And that is a Hebrewish term that means so be it. Okay. So if I'm talking to you, Micah, and I'm like, hey man, can you make sure you're here Monday at 9:00 for the meeting for the second episode? And you say, yes. You just said amen. That's what you did. You know what I mean? Like, that's what it is. It's so be it. It's not even a gender term. So they tried to make a gender term and it just turned out stupid as all get out. So I mean, if anybody needs to be mad, it needs to be Jewish people. So it's like, hey, you just took one of my words,
right,
and tried to change it for something it's not supposed to be, and it's been my word for thousands of years. That it's ridiculous.
He also said that he was calling on, like, saying that God, like, he called on a different God and all this stuff during the prayer.
He tried to be very, let me hit every world religion in one prayer and make everybody happy. Universal. That's what it was. I mean, it was crazy. It's getting crazy out there. As a Christian, you understand this is, but hey, you know what? The good thing is that the Bible is accurate. The Bible is true. And the Bible said this is going to happen, and it's been happening. But so be aware. I mean, they're coming after the electoral college next. And unfortunately, a congressman from Tennessee is doing it, and it makes me
very
upset.
sad.
Yes, it does. Cause we are from East Tennessee. Last piece of news, Biden finally unveiled his major plan as far as saving us from the virus and fixing the economy. I totally don't agree with most of what he does because I didn't vote for him for policy, and one of those is economy because him and Obama ruined it.
Yes.
And I don't want them to do it again. But he unveils a $1.9 trillion plan. And of course, this is going to cover faster distribution of the vaccine, bailouts for Democratic, blue states and blue cities. But I mean, there's stuff for, getting the schools back opened and this big, huge plan. 1.9 trillion is way too much.
Oh, absolutely.
And I've talked about this too, public or openly. I didn't agree with the last bailout or the last, stimulus package. I understand people are hurting, but the way to fix that is open the freaking doors.
Yes.
Let us open back our restaurants. Oh no, we can't do that. Don't give me that. If you believe we shouldn't be opening our doors to spread the virus because you're liberal or you're Democratic or whatever, maybe okay. I understand the concern, but now Andrew Cuomo and Ms. Lightfoot's like, no, we need to open back up. Really? What just changed? All of a sudden. We need to of course, and be cautious and be safe and take precautions when it comes to this virus. But we've got to open back up to grow the economy, not borrow money and throw money at us. That's let's just increase our deficit. And Trump did a decent job at increasing the deficit. Thankfully, not tons but he's dealt with the pandemic too. But I don't think $1.9 trillion is a good idea. Does he have, you're going to hear it from me for the first time here, some things in this package that's a good idea? Yes.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, no. Chase just, Sludge agreed. Sludge said Biden's doing something okay. Yeah, some of the stuff he's got in this package is okay.
Oh, yeah.
And it's a good idea, especially for helping with the schools.
Exactly.
And, getting the vaccine out, the money that we're throwing there, that's really good. And so I'm in agreement to some of this, but man, 1.9 trillion is too much. We're going to just bankrupt ourselves at some point. So
it's saying that he's wanting to give each American that's eligible $1,400, as well as raise the federal minimum wage up to $15 per hour.
How are you going to do that when we're not opening the?
It's going to bankrupt our country.
That's what I think.
And I feel that there'll be more people reliant on the system, bigger
versus
government.
Going and working for yourself.
Mm-hmm.
I agree. There needs to be help given. The government's there to help when needed, not control everything and do everything for you. So like when they said, $2,000 is what, Trump even came out and stated for that last stimulus. I'm like, are you nuts? Like, are you doing this just because you want to piss everybody off right before you leave? It's like 2,000. No, that's crazy. 600. Okay. Yeah. People need help and we need to, but we also need to be responsible and think about what we're doing, and how to better correct this. I can't remember his name. He's an economic advisor. I just read an article earlier today that he was talking about this plan and package and raising the $15 million minimum wage up to 15. He literally was talking about it, and he's one of the guys that we go to, and he's an economist. I mean, he's who we go to learn these things. I should have pulled his name up and thought about it. But he talked about if we just remove the payroll tax for 1 year, the 7.5% payroll tax from employers and from employees for 1 year, that will not affect the government budget, and it will do more than what Biden's trying to do here. Why don't we just do that? I mean, let's remove that.
It's too simple.
I know
it's too that.
Do it. We don't know. We'll get there, but you know what? It doesn't matter because ultimately God's in control, and there's things that's going to aggravate everybody on both sides, and we'll see. I just don't think it's a good move.
No.
Well, and with the $15 an hour, they won't be able to work as many people, or they're going to have to shut their doors. These small businesses,
or as many hours per person,
right?
Because especially now.
And then what about the people that make $15 an hour, or maybe just a couple of dollars more, and they've worked their tails off for years at this job to finally make that much money, and then they make that the federal minimum wage, but then they don't give you a raise?
Yeah. Well, and things that people don't think about either as well is okay, yay, I'm going to make $15 an hour cutting a pizza. Okay, fine. But now when you go get gas, or you go buy a candy bar,
or when people go buy that pizza.
or go buy that pizza, those prices are going to raise. It's called inflation.
Yeah.
That's what's going to happen. We don't just magically poop out the additional money to pay somebody $15 an hour. Mm-hmm. It's got to come from somewhere. Mm-hmm. And in order for a business to keep their doors open, they have to raise the price of product to be able to sustain that type. So you're in the same scenario anyways.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of businesses, especially now, they're going to have to close their doors because they're not going to be able to afford $15 an hour when there's no business coming in anyways. They're not doing it now at $7.25. How are they going to do it there? There's no stimulus. The stimulus package looks a little too scary too. If you've looked at the stimulus package portion of this as to what we've seen, 8 years ago, but whatever. So it'll be interesting, just, pay attention to what's going on. It's crazy right now. But it's okay. We actually have got something very important to talk to you about later on in the show in regards to what's happening. And I think it'll benefit you guys.
Oh, absolutely.
Greatly.
Yeah.
So, but we'll keep bringing you the news of what's going on. And yes, we'll put our little opinions in on it because guess what? It's our show. But you know what? No matter what, I mean, you may be dealing with this and maybe talking to people about these situations, what's going on and see what's going on. And it may make you mad, may make you happy. No matter what, whoever you're dealing with, make sure you treat them with love. If it makes you mad, but it makes your best friend happy, don't attack that person.
Mm-hmm.
They have the right to their opinion, but we've got to come together on all sides and figure out how to clean this mess up because we're in a big mess. So, all right. So coming up next is going to be the entertainment section. We're going to review what is upcoming or what has just came out. But before we do that, we're going to hit you guys with a little bit of music. Hopefully you enjoy it. Of course, now this is a Sludge Cast show. And we know how much Sludge likes rock. So we're going to start off with something a little heavy. Some good friends of mine who I have had the honor of sharing the stage with a few times over the years, a band called 9 Lashes. This is it was the first single they released last year for their upcoming record. It's fixing to drop. Love it. They've got a couple albums out, but this is 9 Lashes with Guilty Hands. And that was 9 Lashes with Guilty Hands. So I hope you guys enjoyed that. And I'm pulling the reins back. I'm letting go. This is
a rarity. Wow.
Yeah, this is my turn to take a break and just run my mouth as a listener.
Man, I feel important.
You do. It is Micah's turn with the entertainment review section.
Okay, guys. So the big part of what we're wanting to do with this entertainment review is to make sure films, TV shows, and other forms of media are appropriate from a Christian standpoint for your family to view, for your kids to watch, and is really just about keeping your family in a safe place about what you watch and what we take in, because what we take in is what most of the time we're putting out. And so that's a big part of what we're wanting to do here.
My mama said garbage in, garbage out. That's so true.
Oh, yeah. So tonight, for me, my part of this, I know Sledge might have a few things he wants to add in show-wise. We'll be reviewing Wonder Woman 1984. The movie came out just recently in 2020, Christmas Day, rated PG-13. And before I start with my thoughts, do you two have any opening thoughts on this? Or
oh my gosh,
film?
I love this movie.
Oh, I agree.
I loved this movie.
I agree.
I felt like, and I don't want to run a rant here because we know I do movies all the time on the other show, but I felt like I was watching an 80s flick.
Yeah.
And for those who know me, I watch a lot of 80s movies. Like, that was my childhood, and 90s as well. But like from the very beginning of this film. The first action sequence, everything looked like an 80s film. The action sequences looked like an 80s action sequence.
Yeah.
The acting is even like 80s dialogue.
Goofy,
It was the perfect 80s film. So I was in love with this movie the whole way through. I still think the first one's better.
Oh, I agree.
But this one entertained me on a level that a superhero movie has not entertained me yet so far. Okay, go ahead.
I'm not really into superhero movies, but I really liked this one. It was a lot of fun.
Okay.
Yeah, she was like, I like this. I was like, whoa. Did hell freeze over? My wife just liked a superhero movie. I don't know what's going on.
So I guess the one thing you could tell about this movie is it was really meant to be a summer release. It had that fun little,
absolutely
that not necessarily a blockbuster film, but it was meant to be a good money pull for the summer for DC. This is the first film that the DC universe has released since Justice League. Am I correct in saying that?
Aquaman came out after.
Okay, yeah, Aquaman. So for the show on this part, we're going to be doing the positives and negatives of the show, except we're not going to be biased like Plugged In is.
Well, yeah.
Because we all know.
Yeah, we called you out. Plugged In. You used to be awesome. Don't know what happened to you. They're still okay. But they're pretty much like, they went from being a really great Christian review site for your family to they're pretty much just a long-winded old woman version of the parental guide section of IMDb. That's really what they've become at this point. So
there probably was not a better way to put that. Love you all
at Plugged In. You guys do still do a great job for what you do. It's just I miss the old way you do it.
Yeah.
You really kind of miss it.
I agree. Okay. So I'm going to start off with the positives. For the positives for me, the moral of this movie, I think, was amazing. Giving up what you love for the greater good, self-sacrifice, unselfishness. And I think that speaks a lot to what, maybe they were trying to go for in this era we're in time and in our country, that, hey, sometimes giving up what you want is better for something down the road, because as you see, well, I can't do spoilers. Dang it.
Well, you can give a little bit.
But
okay.
You see Diana gives up Steve and ends up moving into another relationship at the end of the movie with the same guy Steve was taking over. But
we were hinted at that. Hinted at it. I hope it does happen. That'd be kind of cool. But it does hint at it. Well, I mean, that's the big thing too about this. If I can put my little 2 cents here.
Oh yeah, no.
It is for the very, very it is my show. I want to put my 2 cents in. It for the younger audience, 80s was known as the decade of excess.
Mm-hmm.
Everything was an excess, whether it be the style of clothes you wore, how much food you wore. I mean, everything. I mean, and of course, a lot of it was the partying, drugs, and things like that. But I mean, spending money, consumerism was at its peak in the 80s, and so I mean, it was the decade of excess. And this movie nailed that. You're right about giving things up, because you can't get enough of what you want, especially with the main villain, who Pedro Pascal plays brilliantly.
Oh yes, I have things to say about him.
Yeah, he's phenomenal in it. He handled that character great, because you're like, oh well, he's just really wanting the best,
right?
But then you realize how quickly that becomes bad.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, and they even reference that the god of lies, the Greek god of lies. I don't remember his name, but that quickly turns into excess, and it plays off of each other very well. So for us, the lesson for me was giving up your desires oftentimes is hard, but it can lead to something better. I found this personally to be the most relatable DCEU film because you look at Man of Steel, it's Superman. You can't really relate to Superman.
No,
like
that's why he sucks.
Shut up. This is Diana like losing her powers, giving up something that's important to her, and then eventually letting go of what is truly important to her to gain everything back that she knew she was meant to have.
Yep.
And save the world. And her speech at the end about letting go and get like just because you know what's right was just it was really moving. To be honest,
it was.
So that was really cool. For me, the standing out actors in this were Pedro Pascal and Chris Pine. I think they both were
Chris Pine steals the show no matter what he's in.
Even that Moments of Spider-Verse that he's in when he plays Peter Parker. Like,
it's awesome.
Okay. But yeah, no, Pedro Pascal in his first, for me, his first real Hollywood blockbuster film.
Right.
I think he was phenomenal. We all know him from Mandalorian, but I think he really portrayed a villain because that's what I was really worried about. Like, I never could see him as a villain, but he portrayed him very well, and it was believable too.
Yeah, and polar opposite of Mando.
Mm-hmm.
Polar opposite. So I mean, he did really, really well.
Exactly. And as always, Gal Gadot was great as Wonder Woman. Mm-hmm. Never will have any complaints about her. On the negative side for me, there really wasn't much that I disliked about this film or found wrong with the film. Kristen Wiig seems to be the biggest point of controversy in the film, whether they developed her character too quickly or she wasn't fleshed out enough. That's the big controversy.
There was a pretty quick jump to get her there, but I think once they got her there, they rode that character development really well.
Right.
So I don't complain. My only complaint for the whole movie is kind of about Kristen, but not really Kristen herself.
Uh-huh.
It's the special effects for Cheetah.
Right.
One, she was more snow leopard looking than an actual cheetah, and I hate that design for the character. But I felt like, and while that last fight sequence is amazing, I felt like it was Gal Gadot versus a cartoon.
Right.
So
I agree.
Maybe that was dealing with the budget because of COVID, whatever. But she looked way more boss throughout the beginning of the film.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, just forget the hair. Don't even give me the cheetah outfit. Like, she's awesome right now.
Yeah.
She was definitely when it came to the cheetah part, the special effects was just very subpar. I think.
Oh yeah, I agree. And that kind of spills over into I want to break down kind of like IMDb does with frightening images, sexual content, violence, and nudity for each of us. So we're gonna start with frightening images and whatnot. I think for younger kids, especially, cheetah could be one of the only things that really is quote unquote scary about this film. Especially with
she's
going to
remind
CGI.
You of all your moms. No, just kidding.
No, that especially for younger kids, just the nighttime setting and how she's kind of stalking around that.
Right.
I could see that becoming, but other than that, there really wasn't anything terribly frightening about this film.
No,
in my opinion. Sexual content wise, the only thing that I could really find was Steven and Diana sharing their first night together, but it isn't graphic in any way.
You see nothing. I mean, they go to the apartment and then they wake up the next morning in bed together.
Both clothed. So it's like
both clothed. I mean, you know what's going on. Mm-hmm. Your 8-year-old's probably not going to know what's going on.
Right. Exactly.
Or at least your 8-year-old better not know what's going on.
Well, it's 2021.
Well, yeah, it is 2021. Never mind.
And on the language basis, it's really similar, more so less than any DC film I've watched. Like, it really wasn't heavy on the language, I've noticed. Maybe, I think 2 or 3 S words, and that was really the bulk of
that was it. No heavy hitters.
Mm-mm.
There was no heavy hitters language-wise in this one.
No.
Which was nice to see.
Yeah, and violence-wise, it's just it's just your run-of-the-mill superhero action movie. Like, you just got punches thrown, a little bit of bloody noses here and there, but other than that.
And awesome music to go along with it.
Score is amazing. Awesome. Yeah. So I wanted to add in this, and I just got permission for this like 30 minutes ago, and we both thought it was a good idea.
Yeah.
On these, I'm going to be asking 3 random people to give me a minimum age to watch this film, and then whatever the 3 get, I'm going to average them together. Subsequently, all 3 gave me the same exact answer, and for me and Sledge agrees, we think
we didn't ask Sarah.
We didn't ask Sarah. Sarah,
my opinion doesn't matter.
Oh, it always does.
Well, this is her first superhero movie she liked, so I don't know.
Yeah.
Maybe give you an occasion here.
Yeah, you could probably just throw your 2 cents here on this. But that the minimum age to be watching this film should be 8 years old. We feel like that's probably a good maturity level for kids to watch this movie. Not saying that your younger kids couldn't watch it, but they might have a few things that you have problems with or whatnot, but that's what we here feel like should be the minimum age.
Or maybe questions pop up that you don't want to answer.
Exactly. Exactly. So that's it for Wonder Woman 1984.
Sweet. I am going to throw up a show.
Cool.
WandaVision just came out, and I got to watch the first 2 episodes. Don't worry, Pete, if you're listening. Don't worry, Justin. I'm not going to spoil
right here.
anything.
I haven't watched it either.
And Micah hasn't watched it either. So I don't even know if Sarah, you actually like it, I think.
I have no idea what you're talking about.
WandaVision's the first of the new Marvel shows under Disney Plus that's come out, and of course it's about Vision and Wanda, the Scarlet Witch, Wanda Maximoff, and it's a prelude to the new Doctor Strange movie, which is going to be great because this is set up the multiverse. We're starting to see this come out in a lot of stuff. If you haven't figured it out, those listening, the new Spider-Man movie, come on,
fingers crossed.
We're getting them all. It's going to, the multiverse is coming. So it kind of sets up after what happened in Infinity War and Endgame, and then before Doctor Strange, which is going to be kind of kick off for the new Marvel Cinematic Universe. And Wanda and Vision are in what seems to be an alternate universe.
Right.
And they filmed the whole series like different decades of TV shows. They're sitcoms. And it's all built through the sitcoms. And the first 2 episodes was like a 1950s sitcom. I felt like I was watching like Old Pleasantville, you know what I mean? Or something like that. Or I Love Lucy. Major I Love Lucy vibe, especially in that first episode. I thought it was handled great. I mean, even the corny dialogues from back then, they nailed it. You got, the neighbor characters you get, and then everything's just perfect for a 50s sitcom. But then they slowly release something's going wrong or something's happening, and through the first 2 episodes, and I can't wait to see where it goes. But so far, super clean shows. I mean, just
cool,
cleaner than what All in the Family would be considered nowadays. You know what I mean? Like, it's super clean. So I think it's really, really good so far. 2 episodes in, content wise for family. I mean, I'll let Gavin watch it. He's 6. I mean, he would get a kick out of it. Hopefully he'd enjoy some of the jokes. The magic show that Vision does at the end of the 2nd episode. Sorry, Pete. Spoiler alert. I'm not giving, or Micah. I'm not telling you. I'm not giving anything away about maybe I shouldn't say magic show. But it's hilarious. It's absolutely hysterical. You're going to find out that they don't say it, but there is actually a way to get Vision intoxicated, I guess is the right word, which makes for quite a hilarious scene. And don't worry, there's no alcohol or anything like that in the show at all so far. It's just what you would consider somebody intoxicated is what happens to Vision, and it's super funny. Great show. I've so far 2 episodes in. I'm going to recommend it. It's a good fun show. I love the way they're doing it with the sitcoms. I can't wait to see because how they move to the next decade and the next decade, the 60s and then the 70s. They're going to move through, with each one from what, we've seen in the trailers.
That's
and
ingenious.
It's brilliant. And if they can keep the dialogue and the tone changing with the visuals, it would be absolutely epic. So it's absolutely fun so far. I felt like I was watching an old 50s show, man. And it was super like I was watching I Love Lucy, and it was absolutely wonderful. They definitely modeled a lot of these 2 episodes off from I Love Lucy, which was really, really cool. So,
cool.
So I mean, check that out. It's going to be so far super family friendly, and it's Marvel superheroes. So that's better than anything else that's on Disney besides Mandalorian. So you might as well watch it. Right?
Yeah.
That's where you agree with. Yes. My wife doesn't know what to say. She's like, what? Anyway, so of course we'll have some more for you guys coming up soon. There's a lot of movies for us to go through. And obviously we won't be able to hit every movie every time we do this or every TV show.
Right.
But we're going to try and get the big ones. Everybody's going to go see Wonder Woman, or everybody's going to see the next Star Wars, or everyone's going to see the next Liam Neeson film, or, we're going to try and get all the big guys taken care of for you guys. So you at least kind of know, hey, can I go see this? Or is this okay to take my family to?
Right.
And of course, we'll just give you our opinion. We feel like, hey, would God be okay with us seeing this? This is what we think. And you take it and you run with it the way you want to.
Right.
So right on. Oh, and one other thing too, I do want to mention, Netflix has a new show that I've got to throw out there because I binge watched all 10 episodes in 2 days. Not going to lie. Sweet Home just came out on the 19th of December. It is a Korean show dealing with an outbreak of not a virus. And spoiler alert, it actually is not a virus. But people start turning into monsters. And I love a good monster movie or monster show. Y'all know me. I mean, I host the Monster Movie Stomp Down. But people start turning into monsters. But it's not a virus. It actually, the way they describe it so far is It's desires. So your desires and greed is what turns you into these things. And it's interesting because you've got tons of monsters to the show. I mean, tons of people turn into monsters, but none of them look the same.
Right.
They're all different because it's all based off of whatever their desire is. And so it's made it very interesting. One of the monsters in it, this guy had huge amounts of guilt over the death of his son, who apparently, as they described in the show, or from what you get as they piece it together, died in a fire. And he was trying to run to save his son, but he wasn't fast enough to get his son out of the building. And so like his legs, and of course he looks like he's a monster. He looks grotesque. His legs are like insanely muscular. And then he's got like extra bends in his knees. So he's super fast, like flash fast. But then he's also on fire the whole time. So his monsters, he's turned into this thing because that was his greatest desire, was to save his son because of that situation. And every monster's like that. No language, 0 language the whole show. No nudity or sexual content the whole show. It is super awesome music, super intense. But what really drove me more than it just being a monster show was the characters. Each character is so incredibly deep, and there's so much character development that it's just unbelievable. Like I wanted to watch the next episode because I wanted to know more about that character or this character. And when a monster pops up, that was just like icing on the cake for me. Super great show. I don't know if you guys, I don't watch anything dubbed. I only watch things in the original language with subtitles. But if you want a crazy, intense little monster show that age-wise, I wouldn't 12 and under. I probably would say no.
Right.
Because when it comes to the intensity and the monster action, it is really intense.
Right.
Like it gets pretty bloody. But for 12 and up, totally would be a go. There's going to be no language, no nudity, no sexual content, tons of action, tons of monsters, but tons of amazing human development and how humans would deal with that type of a crisis, because it's all centered around a group of people who are stuck in an apartment complex or a big project. And having to survive together with only so much food, and everyone's different, and anyone could turn into a monster at any time. And the main character is one. I mean, he actually is infected, as they call it, and he's turning into a monster. But as he says in the trailer or in the show, not all monsters harm humans because he's something different. He's something special, and I don't want to ruin it or spoil it. But great show, definitely worth checking out. I think that's probably. I mean, it was better than Stranger Things on all levels. Absolutely. Both of them. I wish y'all could see this video. Like the looks I just got from both.
Me and Sarah just gave him a death stare.
They're like, what? You're crazy.
That's heresy, my friend.
I'm telling you. You check it out. It's
nothing's better than old Dusty Bun singing.
Look, that is pretty top of the line right there. But definitely worth checking out. So, all right, guys. So, of course, next time we'll bring you some more movies, more shows. We may even jump into some video games or other forms of media that we'll make sure that, hey, is it okay that my kids are watching this, or that my family does, or plays it, or whatever? We'll let you know. But of course, now we're going to give you guys another song. And this band I have been following for many, 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 many years. This is none other than a Disciple. So if you listen to Christian music or rock of any kind, you know who this band is. Doesn't need an introduction. Here's one of the best songs off the new record. It's called Best Thing Ever.
Light has come into my world. best thing that's ever happened. You are the best thing that's ever happened to me, and I am yours. Whoa.
And that was Disciple with Best Thing Ever. Those dudes, I will tell you what, when it comes to, I mean, I'm not saying this about any, other Christian rock bands. I mean, there's great Christian rock bands out there like Skillet. I personally am not a big fan of Skillet as far as the music. I mean, it's not bad. It's just not my cup of tea, but I love John Cooper. Like, I love that dude. I watch, do his podcast, the Cooper stuff and his 10-minute talks. But when it comes to Christian bands, there's something about Disciple where you just feel the anointing from that band through the speaker, more so than anybody else. And of course, I've been on the road with them, been around those dudes. Kevin is he's awesome. But I love that band. You can just feel the anointing on almost every song of theirs. So super, super good. All right. So we told you earlier we were going to talk to you about how to deal with as a Christian, what's going on. We are, especially here in America, we are seeing things and times like we've never seen before. And how are we supposed to feel about this? I mean, there's temperatures flaring, man. There's people being cancel cultured, canceled out. And how are we supposed to feel about this? And as a Christian, you're told you may be against abortion and all these different subjects that we'll go into in other episodes. How do you deal about that? How are we supposed to handle this? You know what I mean? Because are we supposed to be afraid? Like, are they going to come after Christians next? Since they're already starting on some conservatives as far as silencing them. What are we supposed to do? There's so much going on so fast that I've talked to so many people that it's like they're stressed, they're scared even, and like, what are we supposed to do? How do we handle that? And Mike, originally you were doing the devotional section, or we're at the deep dive section of the show now. And yesterday, I messaged you because I felt like God was just pinging me going, text Micah about the devotion. Yeah. And then you had prayed about it and said, no, I think you need to lead it. Yeah. So I'm like, okay, I'm glad God told me to ping you. Ping me to let me know because I need to figure something out. And sitting down last night in the Nerd Vault, praying and, kind of quickly going through some devotionals going, God, what do you want me to talk about? What's the devotion? Yeah. And I stopped on Matthew 6:6. Matthew 6:6 is, when you pray, go into your room, close the door, and pray to your Father who is unseen. Then your Father who sees what is done in secret will reward you. Okay? And God's like, that's it. I want you to tell them about the midbar. Do y'all know what the midbar is, my co-hosts?
No.
Midbar, of course, they got little notes here. So they can do that. I'll try to be professional. And for those listening, midbar. If you've never heard the word, you have heard the word, you just may not know it. Midbar is the wilderness. Midbar is a Hebrew word that meant the wilderness. And it actually comes from a root word, davar, which means to speak. And I thought this was huge because we're in a wilderness right now. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? We're this craziness on our own. And sometimes when you think of a wilderness, you sometimes think, and this was something I was going through, is you think of that's somewhere where God takes you to be alone, because that's what he really does. That's what midbar is there's no distractions there. Yeah. But what's the first thing Jesus did after John baptized him?
Went to the forest, went to the wilderness.
Went to the wilderness. But was it silent? No. Was he alone? No. The devil was there tempting him for 40 days. But Jesus went out there because God spoke to him out there. And he spoke back to the devil, which is awesome. But the midbar it's big and it's important. There's been so many examples through the Bible of people going and God speaking, because I mean that's what Devar means. Midbar comes from the word Devar, which in Hebrew means to speak. So I mean the wilderness is the Midbar. Midbar is Devar. Devar is to speak. That's what God does, is he takes us to the wilderness to speak to us. God spoke to Moses. We're at in the wilderness through a burning bush. God spoke to Elijah. We're at in the wilderness in a whisper in a cave. The word of God came to John the Baptist. We're at in the desert. So God definitely speaks to us in the wilderness. And, he took the children of Israel to the wilderness. And obviously that's where we got the 10 Commandments. So, I mean, the wilderness is where God speaks to us. And I was like, okay, well, so what's the correlation there? I mean, if you speak to us in the wilderness and we're going to chaos, but in Matthew 6, you tell us to kind of to get into our secret place. And this is what, God told me is the wilderness is your secret place.
Right.
When you look at Jesus, how many times did he go by himself in the wilderness to pray? Not just the 40 days.
Yeah.
I mean, constantly before they went on the boat and had to deal with the first storm, he went up on the mountain and prayed by himself. You constantly see throughout the scripture, Matthew 14:23, Mark 1:35, Luke 4, where Jesus would go alone and pray in the wilderness, because that's the Midbar. That's where God speaks to us.
Right.
I mean, and he rewards us. So when you go into your room, when you go into your Midbar, close the door and pray, God's going to hear you and God's going to reward you. Does that mean, I was like, okay, what are you going to reward us with? That's all right. I get $50 because I prayed today. No, that reward is an answer. That reward may not be an answer. It just may be
peace.
It may be that fellowship with God that we need. And I think that's so important right now, that because there's so many distractions going on, that we're distracted from God. Are we spending time with him? Are we listening to him? And that's the whole point of the Midbar. That's the whole point of the wilderness is there's no distractions.
Yeah.
And you need to get in that secret place, because when you do that, God's going to answer. He's going to communicate with you. He's going to give you peace. He's going to give you strength. And right now, more than anything, that's what we need.
Yeah.
Especially as a Christian, and is to go through what we're dealing with as we turn on the TV and see what's happening on the news, or we go down to the, Walmart and overhear somebody conversing on what happened down the road, with all the chaos, people are protesting or people are doing this, or it's happening everywhere. And not just what's happening there. I mean, kids going missing and people dying in car wrecks. I mean, just the normal stuff. Unfortunately, that's normal here in America, to have everything else thrown on top of it.
Yeah.
There's so many distractions, and not just the bad things, work, I mean, it's hard. That's something that I deal with, is I work 2 jobs, and Mondays and Tuesdays drive me nuts, because I feel like I get no time with God, no time with my family, because I work 9 a.m. to 10:30, 11 o'clock at night, and that can be a distraction, keeping yourself busy or finding a million things to do. It's not just what you see on the news. It could be things you're doing in your personal life or have going on in your personal life.
Yeah.
And we've got to get away from those distractions. We have to get to our Midbar so that we are spending time with God. Because if we're not going to be able to handle what we're seeing.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know what I mean? Anything you guys want to add to that?
No, I think you're pretty dead on.
Yeah, you nailed it.
Okay, so there's the shortest devotion of all time.
Hey, that's what it is.
It's true. I want to make sure that you guys
no.
take home that little bit of tidbit. Are you spending time in your Midbar? Are you there? Are you at your secret place?
Yeah.
Because, again, the root word for Midbar is Devar, and that's to speak.
Mm-hmm.
God took Moses. God took Elijah. God took Jesus, John the Baptist, and spoke to them all in the wilderness, because there's no distractions, and we need to make sure that that's what we're doing. It's hard, man. It's hard. And my wife's just kind of smiling at me here. I don't know why. Because it's kind of like, what's the term I'm looking for? For me saying that is kind of what it is kind of funny, actually, because I don't know anybody on this planet that stays as busy as I am. I'm the type of guy that's like, like last night, we're sitting where we get done working, and I'm like, I told Sarah something along the lines like, okay, I need to do this, or but the table down here that we use for the podcast. Right. I got some new comic books, and I use this table to put my heat press on, and I need to press a couple books. And I was telling her last night, she's like, well, do you have to do that tonight? I'm like, well, no. She's like, well, just enjoy the night. Just relax. I don't know how to do that.
He doesn't know what that means.
No, because I'm like, okay, I was like, you're right. I need to relax. What I end up doing, spending like an hour on the computer working on things, to get stuff done. I end up doing the logo for the show and everything. So I constantly have to be going. I have to constantly be doing something. If I'm not being productive, literally 24/7, like I even feel like if I'm not productive mentally while I'm sleeping, I'm failing at life. You know what I mean? That's a fault of my own. So coming from me, I'm telling you,
I know what it is.
What?
It's ADHD.
No, it wasn't real when I was a kid, so it didn't get me. But I mean, my life is full of distractions, because especially for me, because I keep myself so busy.
Right.
And I'm telling you, I make sure every day, 8:30 to 9 o'clock, even if you get 5 minutes, you don't have to be 30 minutes. I get jealous. I'm going to lie, of our pastor, because he's full-time ministry. And he'd be like, I spend this many hours in the word, this many hours praying. I'm like, man, I would love to do that. Like, but I gotta go work. Like, this sucks. I wish I could do that, and sometimes I get jealous. I'm like, man, how awesome would that be to be able to do that? I would love to be able to do that all the time. And you shouldn't feel bad for that if you can't, because we do have to work, and God understands and knows. And you may not be able to spend an hour. You may not be able to spend a half hour. Even if it's just a minute, get you a 3-minute devotional book, or 5 minutes. Just make sure you get to your mid-bar and get away from the distractions. No phone, no social media. Because I was going to say, I have my phone with me during my 30 minutes of time in the mornings, but I'm playing worship music softly in the background. You know what I mean? So if you have a phone, use it wisely during that time. You know what I mean? Because some people use their phones for devotional things as well too. So forget my whole no phone deal. Don't use it as a distraction. That's what I'm trying to say. Don't let it be a distraction. If it is, get it out of there. But even if it's just 5 minutes a day, get away from everything. Get away from the distractions of what the world's going to, I think to me, and everyone's going to be different, but that 8:30 in the morning time, I get up, get the kids ready for school, and then I come downstairs, and then it's 30 minutes, me and God, before the day really starts. Because I know once the day starts, man, it's not going to stop. I'm going to see news articles. I'm going to have people calling into work with problems. I'm going to have, issues going on wherever.
Right.
So before I get into any of that, before I step out that front door, I spend that time with God.
Yeah.
And you guys, and I'm not just encouraging you. I'm telling you, do it. You need that time, because it's important. If it wasn't important, why would have God waited to talk to Moses, or Elijah, or Jesus, or John? Why would he do it in the desert? That mid-bar and that secret place is important. And Jesus tells us in Matthew 6:6 that when your Father who sees what you've done in secret, when you've gone and you've prayed, you spent that time with him, he's going to reward you. He's going to give you that answer for that prayer. He's going to give you that peace that you need in the troubled times. He's going to give you that strength to handle the situation. So do it now. So hopefully you guys got a little bit out of that. Take that to heart, definitely. Again, the scripture for that is Matthew 6:6. When you pray, go into your room, close the door, and pray to your Father who is unseen. Then your Father who sees what is done in secret will reward you. Remember, the wilderness, that's your mid-bar. That's where God speaks to you. God spoke to Moses, John, Elijah, and Jesus in the wilderness, in their mid-bars, in their secret place. And right now, with everything that's going on, we need that time with God. We need that time in our secret place to be able to be rewarded by our Father. So hopefully you guys enjoyed that. We got one more song to throw at you guys, and then we're going to wrap this thing up. And I'm a little partial to these dudes because they're my former brothers. I love them to death. This is The Protest with their newest single, Greater.
It's a waste of breath, but you're wasting time waiting around for death. If you try to see, this is not for me. I've been building up what they try to tear down, held under the gun, but it's time to speak out. So I just wanna say, I don't do it for the money, don't do it for the fame. meant for me. I've been building up what they try to tear down, held under the gun, but it's time to speak out. So I just wanna say, I don't do it for the money, don't do it for the fame. As long as someone listens, I don't care who knows my name. I don't do it for the glory, don't do it for the game. I give it all to make them see this is all for something greater than me. I've been building up what they try to tear down, held under the gun, but it's time to speak out. Don't do it for the money, don't do it for the fame. As long as someone listens, I don't care who knows my name. I don't do it for the money, don't do it for the fame. As long as someone listens, I don't care who knows my name. I don't do it for the glory, don't do it for the game. I give it all to make them see this is all for something greater than me.
All right, that is The Protest with Greater. And man, we hope you guys have enjoyed this first show. Hopefully you give us some feedback on the Facebook page. And of course, we're going to put in the links and description on the YouTube channel and the Facebook page, all the songs, the scriptures for today's show as well. And of course, if you guys ever want links for the news, let us know and we'll put them in there as well. But that we're not going to normally because you can find that anywhere. But hope you guys enjoyed it. Again, next time we'll bring more news at you, more entertainment, and then another deep dive devotion with you. We'll see you the next time. This is Sludge.
This is Micah.
This is Sarah.
Remember, transformation by renewal. Have a good night.
As long as someone listens, I don't care who knows my name. I don't do